Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Shaun, alongside my guys, Mr. Kevin Dent, Mr. Jaevon Toddy. We are back after taking a couple of weeks off. You could say spring break, whatever you want to call it. We're back for episode number 186. As Kevin said in the group chat on Instagram, the boys are back here on Stats Over Politics. Mr. Jaevon Toddy, how are we doing today?
Hey man, we're here. We're doing it. Can't keep us away. So, Kev's got a little Snoop Dogg thing going. I don't know what he's got going on, but we here, man. I'm excited. I'm happy. UNC got a
Kevin
new coach.
Dent? Yes. UNC certainly did get a new coach. Maybe we'll fit that in at the end of today's podcast because we are loaded with content today. But Mr. Kevin Dent, should I refer to you now as Snoop Dogg?
I'm doing well, man. No complaints on this end. Got into a screaming match about an hour and a half ago with Toddy over things that I'm sure we'll talk about. So it's going to be a very good day. As you guys see in the headline, we're going to talk about some Eagles.
Yeah.
I know this has got to go left real quick. So I got a drink in hand because I have two Niner fans on the podcast, and we don't have to talk. I already know what they're going to say. Toddy doesn't fail to let me know. He now, Shaun, I don't know if you know this, but Toddy is a closet Eagles fan. He follows all the Eagles insiders, and he'll send me stuff knowing I already saw it. So every time I see something, I'm like, Ty's gonna send it to me. What does he do? Send it to me.
Kevin, hold on. Before I cut you off, did you see LeBron the other night when they said LeBron? They got me on the shelf. I'm in the number one spot now.
And where did you see that?
Kevin's
story.
Yeah, I saw Kevin's story. So yeah, I'm excited.
And shout out to Dre, who on Instagram is at Early Fatherhood, says that's Unc. I'm not sure if he's referring to Jaevon or Kevin. Probably Kevin, though.
He's
given
definitely
the Snoop
referring to
Dogg
me,
talk.
unfortunately.
Is that because Dre was class of 2016, but you were 2015?
Man.
Dre was 7.
I think Dre's 16 with me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 16. He's a year younger than me. Yeah.
And Dre just confirmed it right there. He says on Instagram in all caps, Kevin, like the mom from Home Alone once she realizes that she left Kevin McAllister behind. And I can't think of her name off the top of my head right now, but she recently passed away. So rest in peace to the mother from Home Alone. As we pull out the Kevin reference, and Dre also says 2016. So there you go. Confirms it right there. So guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it.
Whoa, Shaun, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. The last couple of weeks, it was good to take some time off just because life is busy, and so I enjoyed taking a couple weeks off. But I also am grateful to be back here with you guys. As Kevin, you and I were talking about in the pre-show meeting, a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to start a podcast," and then they're like, "Okay, doing a podcast, episode 1, check it out," and then they don't even make it to episode 10. Meanwhile, here we are, 186 episodes in, 3.5 years in. So if we take 2 weeks off or a week off here or there, I think it's all right because we have proven that we are dedicated. And like Toddy said, for us, 2 weeks feels like a lifetime. Meanwhile, someone will have 2 months, 2 years between episode 6 and 7. So here we are back for episode number 186 of Stats Over Politics, as I just tossed a lob to Toddy and he dunked it right in. I did that totally unintentionally with good old 6-7.
The average podcast doesn't make it past episode 6.
There you go. See, that's why there's 2 years between 6 and 7. There you go. So, guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. But before we do, I wanted to shout out Uncle Manny, who's always tuned in on YouTube. He says, "Welcome back. Have a great show. We appreciate you, Uncle Manny. Thank you very much." Guys, we last spoke on this podcast 3 weeks ago, right before March Madness got started. And now, just like that, March Madness has come to an end. So we're going to start things off with the men's side of things. And the reason why we didn't go live last night on our typical Monday night at 7 p.m. is because the men's college basketball national championship was taking place, and we wanted to talk about it in its entirety. And also, we are well aware that the viewers were tuned into that. And we want you all to come tune into us here on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So let's get right to that game as Michigan beat UConn 69-63 for the men's basketball championship. And my good friend, Mr. Keith Jogonatis, is a diehard Michigan Wolverines fan. And Keith, if you're tuned into this, I specifically did not invite you on today's podcast.
I was wondering how that worked.
Want to hear about it. I did not want to hear about it. I already heard enough in my text messages where he's texting me all hail to the victors and all these different things. And he's saying, "Oh, Michigan football and basketball fans, we can die happy now." And I'm like, "Dude, your football program is like in shambles right now." And he's like, "Yeah, but never forget 2023. I'm like, "All right, whatever." Anyways, Michigan wins the national championship. It's their first as a program since 1989, when you had a guy like Rob Pelinka on the team. And now, all these years later, Michigan wins another national championship, this time led by Dusty May as the head coach in his second year after coming from Florida Atlantic University, a program that came out of nowhere and made it to the Final Four with him leading the charge. And now he, in his second year at Michigan, wins a national championship. So congrats to him. As an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, I am upset about it. Nevertheless, Toddy, I'm going to toss this one to you first because I would imagine Kevin feels upset about this just as I do as a Buckeyes diehard fan. But just, Toddy, what was your reaction to Michigan beating UConn 69-63 for the men's basketball championship?
First off, I want to say, because I am a gambling man, gamble on this podcast. What a cover by the UConn Huskies. This line was at 6.5. Line closed at 6.5, and they won off of the hook. Kevin is not a fan of the hooks. Got saved by the hook this time. You live by the hook and you die by the hook. So closed at 6.5. They cover. Michigan wins by 6. Michigan's been destroying everybody virtually the entire tournament. I think they were winning by an average of like 15-ish points, 20 points. They just blew out the other number 1 seed, Arizona, in the Final Four, which I picked Arizona to win, and Arizona just never showed up. UConn, on the other hand, was a very improbable way to get to the national title game. Obviously beating Kevin's Blue Devils in the Elite Eight off of a miracle shot. Miracle 30-footer that was. And it's just that's just a whole nother, we can talk about that for a whole
episode.
Just the way that UConn got there, and Dan Hurley, their road to the national championship, them losing in their conference championship game, actually kind of getting handled pretty in that game against St. John's, a team who really can't really shoot threes, and kind of got the score was a little bit less evident of what the game actually looked like in that conference championship game, and for them to kind of run the table in the national championship game, I don't think really anybody beforehand had UConn in the national championship. Probably would have had a team like Illinois had a really good run. I don't think we even expected them to really get as far. Duke probably would have been that team that a lot of people would have had in the national championship game. Probably a lot of people still think that Duke probably could have beaten this Michigan team
Again.
But how? Neutral site game.
They're both neutral site games.
But happy for Yaxel Lindenborg. A lot of guys are going to come at him for his age and how old he is. But I think, in my personal opinion, he's going to be a top 10 player selected in the draft. Call me crazy. Thought he had one of the best years this year as a whole as a player. He's just a little bit older. And congrats to Dusty May, a guy who was in the running for the North Carolina head coaching position. Didn't think he was going to come anyway because their team was just, they were running over everybody. And I also want to give a shout out to Elliot Cadeau, former Tar Heel. Didn't work out for us, but I just thought that he played phenomenal this whole entire NCAA run, and especially in the second half of that championship game that we saw last night. He was on fire. You would have thought the Human Torch was out there playing because he was playing out of his mind. And I forget the guy's name, but he was a transfer from UConn, and he transferred from UConn. I think it was Jaevon Howard's last year, and they were like one of the worst teams in basketball at the time. He transfers to UConn, or he transfers from, I think it was from Michigan to UConn, and he ended up playing against his old team, and he said it was no bad blood. So he probably feels the type of way a little bit from, hey man,
Terrace Reed.
There we go. Thank you, Shaun. Or thank you, Kevin. So it was a pretty good game. Michigan's kind of started to run away with it at the end, but then UConn hit some timely threes to help cover the spread because Dan Hurley knew, hey guys, let's keep it under 7. Let's keep it under 6.5, 7 points. We'll be all right. No headbutts in this game. No headbutts from Coach Hurley. But I thought it was really cool to see Michigan because another thing I do want to mention is I did see the Fab Five. I'm like a huge Fab Five fan. I understand I'm not old enough to know what the Fab Five is, but being who my dad is and how much of a basketball head he is, he kind of put me on who the Fab Five was. They did like a multicast on one of the off street. I think it was HBO's. They did something.
It was on ESPN. They just did like their own stream.
Yeah,
it's like the Manning. It's like the Manning stuff.
Yeah, they did like their own simulcast, and I was like, "But they brought the Fab Five back. That's insane!" So I thought it was cool to see Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, Jaevon Howard. I can't forget the other two's name, but Rashad King and Raymond something Jackson. But those two, all those guys together was kind of crazy because Michigan banned them from like They basically erased the whole Fab Fire. They're like, yeah, that didn't happen. These guys took all this and money, and it's crazy now because NIL is what it is now. Okay, they took a little bit of change. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So it was cool to see all those guys back, and they should bring them back. Retire their jerseys, which is another thing that Kevin will probably rant about.
Agree with legacy.
I think Michigan. I think they were like 0-5 in national championships, and for them to finally come out on top, it's kind of crazy. Because if you look at all the other teams and kind of compare it to this team, like those teams probably could have competed with all the other Michigan national championship runner-ups, in my opinion.
Something I want to say real quickly about Yaxel Lendenberg, as Toddy was alluding to, his age is up there for today's current college basketball landscape. Years ago, he would have been a normal age, probably right up there with the juniors and seniors, but wouldn't have been considered that old. But yesterday, actually during the game, I saw a crazy factoid about Yaxel, and props to him for grinding his way through 2 injuries in yesterday's game. He even said at halftime, "I'm playing terrible. I'm playing terrible. I feel terrible. I look terrible, but I'll be better in the second half." And he did make a couple key plays down the stretch, including a key block. So kudos to him for fighting his way through those injuries. But the interesting factoid that I found is that he was in the same recruiting class as Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, guys that have been in the NBA for like 4 or 5 years.
I'm pretty sure all those guys are on their second contract.
Exactly. So that's absolutely crazy. And the other thing that I wanted to get to is, Toddy, you were alluding to Terrace Reed Jr., who Kevin mentioned. He played 2 years for Michigan and 2 years for UConn. Those 2 schools won 3 championships in those 4 years. He didn't win any of them. That's just
crazy.
It's just tragic. I feel bad for that guy. And then one other thing I wanted to add before we hear from Kevin is shout out to Alex Caravan, who had a hell of a career at UConn. 2-time national champion, 3 Final Four appearances, an 18-2 record throughout the NCAA tournament. And he, as an individual player, has the most wins in UConn's men's history. UConn isn't just some program that got good over the last 5 years. They are a historically great franchise for not only women's hoops, but men's hoops as well. And you think back to all the great alumni that they've had. They were all in the stands, between a Ben Gordon to, he didn't have the best NBA career, but like a Charlie Villanueva. You also think about Kemba Walker, all these great players that came through UConn. Alex Caravan has the most wins in UConn's men's history for an individual player. So salute to him for a hell of a career, but it comes to an end with a loss in the national championship. Kevin, what was your reaction to Michigan beating UConn?
UConn just ran into a wall, man. This Michigan team has been great all year. You saw when they got the guy from UCLA, the big man, it really just changed their dynamic. They're playing Yaxel at the 3, essentially, when he's essentially a power forward. So to just have all that size out there, the Illinois transfer they got, and the dude from UCLA. So they were really big in their front court. So to just put it all on the line and say, we're going to go out here and just be more physical than teams. For them to be the first Big Ten team to win a national championship since Michigan State in 2011 says a lot. Because we always talk about the Big Ten, how physical they are, and football this, football that, but there was 2 teams from the Big Ten in the Final Four. So you got to tip your hat to the Big Ten. Illinois almost got it done, but they ran into a brick wall on UConn, and then they played them hard. But unfortunately, UConn just got over the hump, and then Michigan got up early against Arizona, and they never looked back. But focusing on this championship game, UConn had every reason to fold. They didn't hit a single 3 in the first half. Braden Mullins, the guy who was forever going to be imprinted on my heart for the shot against Duke, he's been balling. Before that Duke shot, he was 0 for whatever. And then throughout those next 3 games, he was torching. Now he's on the now he's projected to go lottery. Like, he was always projected to go first round, but playing in March and playing to that kind of caliber and winning your team games, and arguably the best shot of our lifetime. I know we have the Villanova shot, but you definitely got to put this Brandon Mullen shot up there because, like Toddy said, it was a 42-foot shot, and it wasn't a jump shot. He threw it. Like, he gave it all. So for them to come out on top, hats off to Michigan. It really just goes to show, man, college football is changing. His name is Brandon May? Is that the first coach? Brandon May? The coach. You're muted.
Damn it. I tried to start using the mute button more just so people don't hear me loudly breathing in the background. And I have been getting got by the mute button over the last 3-4 episodes. His name is Dusty May.
Dusty May, perfect. So Dusty May, the coach from Indiana football, they were both there for 2 years. Both were at winning programs at a lower level, JMU and Florida Atlantic. They come to the big stage 2 years in, they're hanging banners. So it just goes to show, the college realm is changing. You can turn a program around in 2 years, but it all starts with the right coach. No matter if you don't have the right coach, you're bringing in the right players, it doesn't really matter. Toddy, for the audio only listeners, pointing at the camera because he thinks that they have a jewel of all jewels. And I guess we'll talk about that later. But hats off to Michigan and Elliot Cadeau. I apologize because when you were at UNC, I called you everything north of dog water. People were guarding him like he was a Ben Thompson, Ben Simmons, let him shoot. And now I told Toddy at halftime, I said, I don't know who Elliot Cadeau is, but he looks like Trae Young with dreads. So hats off to them. You definitely thought a coach like Dan Hurley would be able to outcoach him, and they fought back. And it was a little too much, too little, too late, too much. So hats off to them. But they did their best. But Michigan unfortunately gets it done. And as a Big Ten fan, I love to see it, but I would have preferred if we were going for a Big Ten team for it to be Illinois.
Yeah, me too, especially given that Andrej Stojakovic from Sacramento, California, Jesuit high school, the son of King's great Peja Stojakovic, he was leading the charge for that Illini team, and they were my pick to win it all. And if they had won it all, I would have won multiple bracket challenges and been much more wealthy. Instead, I got nothing. So great run, but almost a little bit of a tease for me. And now, to your point, Kevin, the Big Ten is on an absolute roll between Indiana winning the football national championship to Michigan winning the men's basketball championship. And what we're going to get to next, even though it's still hard for me to consider them a Big Ten team, the UCLA Bruins winning the women's basketball championship. The Big Ten in the NIL era has just been on a roll. The SEC, they can't pay people under the table anymore. Things are starting to balance out. That's all I'm saying. One other thing I wanted to add about the men's tournament, since we didn't really break down the round to rounds this year, is going back to the Elite Eight. One stat I wanted to mention that pertained to UConn that was very remarkable, and I've had it saved for a couple weeks, is that one seeds were 134-0 when leading by 15 plus points at halftime before March 29th, and they are now 134-1. Kevin is shaking his head because his beloved Duke Blue Devils had a 44-29 lead against UConn in the Elite Eight at halftime, and they went on to lose 73-72. It took a very remarkable shot at the end, and I think Caden Boozer, he's going to be better off after that whole situation. Obviously, it sucks for him in the moment that he had to go through that, but I think he's going to grow from it. And he's also going to be probably one of the most popular players in college basketball next season because Cam will be in the NBA. The reason why I say that, Kevin, the reason why I say that, I see the look on your face, but the reason why I say that is the way that he handled that terrible play and how he handled it with maturity and class after it all happened. I think he got a lot of people on his side, and a lot of people who just thought, oh, he's the other Boozer. Now they're going to be watching him next season, and they're going to see his improvement. And I just think that it'll end up being like a Disney movie where it's like, oh, he hit rock bottom, just for him to rise back up to the top. And
in the NBA.
Well, maybe you think he's going to the NBA right now?
He's not going back to college, brother.
Mm.
The run he had in the ACC tournament and the March Madness, there's no reason to go back to school.
What if he is a late first-round pick, early second-round pick, and NIL money is there?
He'll be a first-round pick. He'll for sure be a first-round pick.
Will he be a lottery
like
pick?
20?
No, he won't be lottery, but I mean he'll be first round. And I mean, essentially, isn't it better off going to a better team?
Yeah, that's fair.
And I love me some Boozer, but we got some dogs coming in next year, so it's probably best for him to go. And if he does come back, I think he might transfer, but I don't think he would want to do Jersey, no matter what.
Oh, okay. Well, Kevin just stomped out my
Fair
Disney
point.
movie.
Shaun,
I guess we'll have to wait and see. Yes, it is a fair point. As we keep things moving here on episode 186 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon Toddy. Now over to the women's side. UCLA beat South Carolina 79-51 for the women's basketball championship. And I didn't get a chance to watch this on Sunday, unfortunately, as I was out and about on Easter, spending it with family. But, man, if you had told me going into this game that the winner would prevail by a score of 79-51, I for sure would have thought that the Gamecocks were once again national champions, because I thought going into this game that UCLA was the underdogs. I think a lot of people felt that way. And for them to prevail by 28 points, I mean, they got out to a double-digit lead at the end of the first quarter. They really controlled this game. And the UCLA women's basketball program wins their first national championship, which is remarkable in itself. Corey Close, in her 15th year as the head coach of this program, finally breaks through and gets the job done. Lauren Betts transfers from my school, Stanford, after her freshman year. She spends a couple years at UCLA. They lose in the Final Four last year. You have a Gabriela Jaquez, younger sister. Yes, the younger sister of Jaime Jaquez, who is now on the Miami Heat. And she was kind of that do-it-all player who basically made all the little plays. And you have a point guard in Kiki Rice, who is just an absolute floor general. She'll be nice in the WNBA one day. But this UCLA team, they had all the pieces, but many people like myself who follow women's basketball didn't really expect them to get this far. And so I know that, Kevin, you and Jaevon aren't absolutely locked in on women's college basketball, but Kevin, did you have any thoughts on this women's tournament in general, or the fact that UCLA ended up hoisting their first trophy?
You know, I am not. I would call myself a casual because that's not giving myself enough respect. But I did watch the what I thought was the national championship game was UConn South Carolina. That game was a lot better than this game. I know the score doesn't show it because South Carolina pulled away at the end. But UConn and South Carolina are going back and forth. I love a good story of a team not losing a single game. So I was low-key rooting for UConn to go and just go 41-0, I think it would have been. That just goes to show how good the coaching staff is over there and the players. You know, they really build a foundation, especially in this NIL era where you can get paid to go play somewhere else as a freshman. Why would you sit on the bench behind potential NBA players or WNBA players, excuse me. But, you know, hats off to UCLA. South Carolina just didn't show up. You definitely got the vibe just thinking that they wanted to beat UConn. And then once they beat UConn, it was kind of that. And I know a lot of the story was Dan Stanley versus Gino and kind of all that stuff that happened before the game. Him saying she didn't shake his hand, but there's obvious evidence that they did. So, you know, now people calling Gino a sore loser, A, B, C, and D. But, you know, hats off to UCLA. First time the second time in the past 5 years where the same brand has won both men's and women's national championship.
Yeah, and to follow up on what Kevin was saying, I also thought that semifinals game was the national championship. And that's what made me so shocked when UConn won by the margin, or excuse me, UCLA won by the margin that they did, because I thought for sure UConn versus South Carolina was for the national championship, just like I thought that Michigan versus Arizona was for the men's national championship, basically. And it's a shame. It even takes us back to the NFC championship in the NFL this year, where we all felt like that game was the Super Bowl, and then whoever made it was going to end up beating whoever came out of the AFC. The thing about the whole Geno and Don Staley situation is that Geno has won on the highest of levels for years and years and years. I've lost count of how many national championships he has off the top of my head. But that just seemed totally out of character for Geno Auriemma to react the way he did and to treat Dawn the way that he did. And he said, "Oh, well, she didn't shake my hand." They showed clips of when both teams came out onto the court of Dawn Staley shaking hands with everyone on the UConn staff, starting with Geno Auriemma. But I feel, just to play devil's advocate for Geno, they did show another clip on SportsCenter after the one that Kevin was describing, where Dawn's shaking hands with everyone. And that's what she said. "I shook hands with everyone." But what Geno may have been referring to is at the end of the starting lineups, he was standing at midcourt waiting for Dawn to come shake his hand at the end of the starting lineups. I don't know coaching well enough to know if that's a tradition that happens every single game, and that's what Geno got so upset about. But I honestly thought that he did this and all these antics to take the heat off of his players. You have AZ Fudd in her career coming to an end, and she did not play very well. Sarah Strong, who is the National Player of the Year, she got shut down for the most part by Raven Johnson, who's like 5 inches shorter than her. And so she kind of crumbled under the pressure. Or maybe Raven was just that elite of a defender that she was able to limit the National Player of the Year. But my point is, UConn's top 2 players didn't necessarily show up in that Final Four game. And I felt like Geno's antics was to take the heat and the spotlight off of them, so then they could kind of just fade back while he took all the heat. And so I felt like, after seeing how South Carolina performed in the national championship game, that he kind of got into the heads of the Gamecocks, like the whole team, and kind of shifted their focus on from what the mission should have been to what they were still dealing with and still hearing about from a day or two prior. And I think Geno Auriemma would much rather see UCLA win their first championship than see South Carolina win their 5th championship in the last 10 years. And so that's my whole thought process on it. Geno, as Kevin mentioned, later issued a statement where he was like, I was wrong. I shouldn't have acted that way, yada, yada, yada. Point is, the focus was still taken off of his players at that point. We're focused on his statement. And South Carolina didn't just lose the national championship. They got the brakes beat off them. And a stat I wanted to mention is that South Carolina is the first team in women's college basketball history to lose back-to-back national championships by 20 points or more. As we remember last year, they lost to UConn by 20-plus points. And so that's something that I thought was pretty interesting. Toddy, before I toss it to you, I want to share my final thought on this whole situation. Is my favorite part about all of this is that Dawn Staley, after Geno came at her the way that he did, which was totally unwarranted, but after he came at her, mics could pick up when Dawn was saying to her assistants, "I'm gonna," earmuffs for Mako now that he has joined the room, but Dawn was saying, "I'm gonna beat Geno's ass. I'm gonna beat Geno's ass." That was my favorite part about that whole situation. But that's also my thoughts on why Geno did what he did. Mako and Jaevon, the Toddies, what was your reaction to UCLA winning its first women's game?
So I wanted to actually give some props to UCLA, Gabriella Hawkins. She had a double-double. She went 21 and 10. All right. She was out there hooping. I mean, UCLA, I gamble. Gotta bring up the gamble. They were plus 165 before tip off. So I mean, you would have gambled on them, you'd have made a pretty good ton of money. I do want to say this. UCLA, congratulations. You guys won national championship. I get all that. But Wonder Woman is back. Starting next year. Wonder Woman, Supergirl, whatever y'all want to call her.
Captain
Juju
America
Watkins is back starting next year. And might I remind you, when USC played UCLA, it was belt to ass when Juju was on the court. So I do want to put it all on notice. College sports, Juju Watkins is back. Mako wants to let y'all know she ain't nothing to be played with. That's all I'll say right now. Hey, UCLA, congratulations. You guys won your title. Juju Watkins is coming back to the sport next year, and the whole world will be put on notice. How soon they forget? How soon they forget that she's not been on. We all know when she was healthy, she was the best player in college basketball. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, well, and also to add on top of that, with Juju Watkins coming back, let's not forget that the Trojans, they got Jazzy Davidson now. She is nice. Like, not only is she just a beautiful woman in general, but she is such a talented hooper. Like, she is an absolute baller. And that showed throughout this tournament. Even when South Carolina took out USC in the round of 32, I mean, Jazzy became the only freshman in women's college basketball history to total 31 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in a March Madness game. The other player to do it was Caitlin Clark. That's the end of the list. Jazzy Davidson is just an absolute baller, and now you pair her with a Juju Watkins. Oh, and the fact that the Trojans got the #1 player in the nation coming to join them next year, that big three is going to be disgusting. So I guess we could probably pencil in that the women's national championship is going to stay in Southern California. It's just going to go over to SC instead of staying at UCLA because Juju's back. Jazzy is coming in as a sophomore, and then they got the #1 player in the country coming through. And so USC is going to be tough to beat next season.
Future Portland Fire, Shaun. #1 pick next year's draft.
Ooh, or maybe Toronto Tempo.
No, Juju Watkins.
Yeah, Kevin wants to be able to drive.
If we get the #1 pick and we don't take Juju, your franchise just started getting Juju. Sell some tickets.
Kevin, are you officially a Portland Fire fan?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna go to a couple games. I didn't really understand the expansion draft because it's not like the NBA, so it was kind of weird. Like they got to choose the person to get rid of.
Well, yeah. So basically, real quickly, I'll say with the expansion draft is each existing WNBA team gets the option to choose 6 players to keep from their roster. And they don't even have to be under contract. It's just 6 players that they want to retain the rights to. Everyone else is available. And so you had a lot of players that are names that aren't widely known because they weren't protected. But the one player, since we are on the topic of the WNBA expansion draft that happened this past week, the one player that did get selected in that draft, which was absolutely bonkers for me, was Marina Mabrey going from the Connecticut Sun to the Toronto Tempo. In the Tempo, they picked up a franchise centerpiece in the expansion draft just because Connecticut, who is soon to become the Houston Comets, Connecticut didn't want to protect Marina because Marina was saying all season how she wanted to be traded and she didn't want to be there anymore. But yet they just let her go for nothing, and they didn't choose to protect her and at least trade her for something, not even a second-round pick. That was crazy to me. When I saw her name a part of the selections for the expanded draft, I just thought it was absolutely blasphemous because Connecticut should have at least protected her to trade her for something. Nevertheless, they are just trying to start over in Houston, I guess. Doesn't really make sense to me, but we'll keep things moving here on episode
for clip purposes.
Yes, sir.
We're waiting on Talia. Let's hear about the Angel Reese trade. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, Angel Reese to Atlanta. It was an interesting trade because at the end of last season, she was basically voicing her frustration towards the Chicago front office, where she was saying, you know what? Are we trying to win? Are we trying to lose? And so Angel Reese, with her public platform and all the followers that she has on social media, called out the Sky front office. They clearly didn't like that. And so behind the scenes, they worked to trade her. They end up trading her for 2 first-round picks. So it's like, that's pretty good compensation going back to Chicago for a 2-time All-Star. But Atlanta is looking real nice now. I mean, the WNBA is kind of all in flux right now. They finally agreed to a new CBA. The season is going to be happening. But because all the players knew that the CBA was coming up, basically all of them structured their contracts to be a free agent in 2026. And so now you have basically only the players on rookie contracts and like 3 other players in the entire WNBA who are under contract. And you already have some stars like Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu already saying that they're going to return to their teams in Vegas and New York, respectively. But if Atlanta, to answer your question, Kevin, I know I'm kind of rambling now, but if Atlanta can maintain some of the core pieces that they have with an Alicia Gray, a Ryan Howard, a Brianna Jones, they have Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner is kind of on the back end of her career, but the 3 players I just mentioned with Gray, Howard, and Jones, you put Angel Reese in that, they're damn near building a super team. Like, it's not like the major names like an Asia Wilson or a Caitlin Clark, so on and so forth, but those are all former All-Stars. And then you add in a young All-Star like Angel Reese, and they could really be title contenders. And I think the addition of Angel Reese definitely solidifies that. And the last thing I'll say about it is that Angel Reese has the influence. She has had the influence since she was at LSU. And that showed via the analytics with social media numbers, where when the trade was announced, within like 6 hours, the Chicago Sky lost 10,000 followers on Instagram, and the Atlanta Dream gained 16,000 followers on Instagram. So it just shows, people are fans of Angel Reese. They're not necessarily fans of the Chicago Sky. And I totally get that, because I became a New York Liberty fan because of Sabrina Ionescu. And if Sabrina Ionescu had been traded from the Liberty within the first couple of years, I would have been like, peace out, New York. I'm following Sabrina wherever she goes. And that's what all those thousands of people did with Angel Reese. And so this trade makes the Atlanta Dream a title contender. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I look forward to talking much more WNBA here on Stats Over Politics as we keep things moving here on episode 186. Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon Toddy. Kevin, if you could, please bring us to our next 3 segments.
Yes, sir. Before we move on, I remember a long time ago when you guys asked me how I became an Eagles fan, and I literally said the same thing Shaun said with Michael Vick, and I was crucified. But he just admitted to the world that if Sabrina did it, he would have followed. But when Kevin does it, Kevin's only been an Eagles fan for 11 years. We don't got to talk about it. I'm just saying, Shaun, you were the first one to throw shots at me. But you just admitted you do the same thing.
Yeah, but the difference is that Sabrina didn't get traded. I've now been a New York fan for 6 years, and if she did get traded, I'd still be a New York fan. So that's
the difference was I was a child. You're a grown man.
Okay. That's fair.
I was following my favorite player. I was a kid. See,
that's
crucifying
fair.
a child is a shameful. But
I mean, I would not have said that to young Kevin, but I will say it to 28-year-old Kevin.
Yeah, how dare
just saying. Every now and then, Shaun loves to throw it on. Kevin hasn't even been an Eagles fan that long. I'm just saying, he just admitted if Sabrina would have got traded, he would have been jumping like the bunny rabbit. But it's neither here nor there. She did get traded, like Shaun said. But I just thought that was funny because every time it comes up.
Fair.
So moving on. We were talking about Michael Vick. I was talking about the Eagles now. We talked about it in the pregame show. We talked about it in the beginning of the show. Jalen Hurts, there was an article that came out basically saying he's uncoachable. He does what he wants to do. He doesn't like to do this. He doesn't like to do that. And being the kind of quarterback he is, does he have the power to say those kind of things. So, Toddy, I'm going to throw it to you next. Fact or cap? Jalen Hurts is the quarterback under the most pressure next season.
The most pressure? I don't know about the most pressure. I'll say cap. I feel like there's more quarterbacks out there. I think he's under a lot of pressure. I will not disclose that because I was talking to, me and Kevin will get into shouting matches throughout the day. And I asked Kevin, hey, is Jalen Hurts, is his contract coming up? He said he's got 2 years left on his deal. So technically he has 1 year left, essentially. So I was like, yeah, he has to play really good this year. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of heat just within the Eagles organization. They feel they have a standard. Kevin has a standard. He thinks they're going to the Super Bowl every year. So you can only imagine what the front office believes. So, he's under a lot of pressure. I'm not sure. I think there's guys. You know what? I'm going to change my statement. I'm going to say it's fact. Just because he's in the spotlight a lot. His situation, you got guys like A.J. Brown, got guys like Saquon Barkley. The defense was all-world last year. He had 2 all-pro corners. Was really able to get the job done. Lost to an undermanned 49ers team in the playoffs, first round. That is just shameful. Just at home, too. Let's put this touchdown favorites. I think Nick Sirianni's under a lot of pressure as well, just being as a head coach. If he's unable to succeed in the fashion that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie expect those guys to succeed, they'll get his ass about in there, or they'll go get somebody else. That's just neither here nor there. We always talk about roster generation just throughout the league and how good your team is. Howie Roseman is kind of viewed as one of the best GMs in the league, and how he constructs his roster top to bottom, from the D line to the back end of the secondary, to the running back, to the O line, and to the receivers. I just think he is one of those GMs that people do not want to trade with. He's always willing and dealing and trying to make things happen, make the team better. So with the roster that is at hand given to him, the Eagles are always a top 5 roster in the league, just off the rip. And I think what Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have been able to do in the past year and a half, it's been underwhelming. Obviously, they did just win a championship, but I think last year was just one of those telltale signs that, hey, we got this, we got that. And Kevin was like, oh, we had the best defense and this, that, and the third. We still won our division, and we got bounced in the first round. Our offense was first and 3 and outs. We were 27th in offense. A.J. Brown had an underwhelming year. He's probably going to get traded, in my opinion. There are other quarterbacks out there. I think Joe Burrow is going to be under a lot of pressure. I think C.J. Stroud is going to be under a lot of pressure given his stinker performance in the playoffs. And, there are other guys out there. I just don't know if they're just – Jalen Hurts has been in the spotlight the past, I'd say, month. A lot of things are starting to come out, which I think is a little bit strange. Why now? Why is this coming out now? He has had a lot of offensive coordinators, whether that's them getting fired or them getting head coaching positions. Can't tell what is it? Are you a good coach or are you a bad coach? I don't know. I don't know.
You don't get fired for being a good coach.
I don't know. Hey, he's had guys come up in there. It didn't work out. So, he has had guys go on to get a head coaching job. They get let go. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's what Kevin thinks that he is. But I do think he has to play better. I'm going to say this is a fact. I think he's under the most pressure. Got to go out there. Because if he doesn't play well, Sirianni's going to get fired. And what's going to happen with Jalen Hurts? Is he going to get a new contract? He's making $50 million a year. Do the Eagles want to pay that? And since A.J. Brown's going to be gone, he's got to show that, hey, I'm the guy. I'm the reason why we won those Super Bowls and got to the NFC Championships, those divisions. It's because of me. I'm the guy. So I don't know, man. I think Jalen Hurts is one of those. He's a polarizing player. I don't know. There's stuff about him calling the plays. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. They lost. I don't care what happened on the last play. But I think he's got to go. He's got to hoop next year. He's got to have a really, really good year for him to not be, all right, man, like, hey, you're making this much money. You got to go out there and you got to prove it. So I'm going to say this is a fact.
All right, Shaun, I'm going to swing it to you next. Factor cap. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback under the most pressure going into next season.
I would say that this is a fact. Uncle Manny, the Cowboys fan, says most pressure would be Dak, and I think he has a valid point.
They don't care about that.
But the reason why I say this is a fact, Kevin, is because of the report that just came out from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, and that's why we're talking about this. Is this came out just less than a week ago? Yeah, Jeremy Fowler is certified Big J journalist. He is an ESPN senior NFL reporter. And this news came out right after the owners' meetings and coaches' meetings in Arizona. So the notes from Jeremy Fowler's ESPN article about Jalen Hurts include that he pushed back on changes that would diversify the scheme. He wanted to avoid playing under center. He was reluctant to let it rip at times, particularly against zone coverage. He had poor body language and was not always bought in. He's not the most coachable, and the players notice. And also, he diverts from the game plan and changes play calls to an excessive degree. And so that's a problem. But then on the other side of things, Jalen Hurts is 57-25 as a starter. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He's led his team to 2 Super Bowl appearances.
All-pro quarterback.
All-pro quarterback. We got 6 things listed in Jeremy Fowler's article, but then we got another 6 things on the other side proving why there should be no pressure on Jalen Hurts, because he quite literally just won the Super Bowl a season ago. But the reason why I say that this is a fact is because he plays in Philly. If he played anywhere else, a Super Bowl just over a year ago would still be gratefully appreciated. But instead, in Philly, the fans seem to be happy for just that window of time. And then when things start to go bad, that's when the fans start to get upset. And you have fans saying about Nick Sirianni, we have fired a Super Bowl winning head coach before, and we will do it again. And Nick Sirianni was getting put under the microscope during the season that they are the reigning Super Bowl champions. And now this report comes out from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN about what Jalen Hurts is like in the locker room. There's all this talk about A.J. Brown being traded specifically to the Patriots, but then news came out today about why A.J. Brown has been linked to the Patriots so much. Shout out to Diana Rossini of The Athletic. Look that up if you don't know about it yet. But point is, this is a fact, Kevin. Jalen Hurts is the QB under the most pressure next season, and it's because of 2 factors. Number 1, the Jeremy Fowler report that came out a week ago that I just listed off, and then number 2 from Big J. But then number 2, because of where he plays in Philly, where he's constantly under the microscope, being scrutinized, and that's why. So this is a fact.
So that went exactly how I expected it to go. Toddy kind of surprised me. He let the pressure get to him. He said no, then he said yes. Then he just started rambling about all types of shit. Shaun came out here and do what I knew he was going to do. He was going to look at the article, dissect the article. It's the journalist in him.
What was the Diana Rossini article? I didn't see that one.
No, it's not an article.
Diana Rossini.
Yeah.
Diana
Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, Diana Rossini is allegedly in a romantic relationship with Patriots coach Mike Vrabel that got exposed today from the coaches' meetings in Arizona last week. They push back on that, but they're also both married people, so of course they're going to push back on it. We'll leave that there. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, it's tough.
Factor cap, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback under the most pressure. This is a cap. I get it. He plays in Philly. Everyone's under pressure. But let's just look at it tenfold. There's a guy named Justin Herbert who is 3-18 in the playoffs, or versus playoff teams. That's his record versus playoff teams in his career is 3-18. He had a guy named Kellen Moore, and when Kellen Moore was kicked out of Los Angeles, Kellen Moore can't coach. Maybe he's just overrated. He went to Dallas and they couldn't get it done. Plays with Jalen Hurts. Toddy, if I'm mistaken, he's a head coach in the NFL again, right? After coaching the head case, the guy with the bad body language, the dude who can't be coached, that guy got him a head coaching job, correct? If I'm wrong. Because I'm sure he was in the same locker room with Justin Herbert. Josh Allen has beaten Patrick Mahomes twice and lost 5 times. Jalen Hurts has lost to Patrick Mahomes once. But no, I guess he's not under the most pressure. Let's go down the list. Joe Burrow's beaten him once. He's been to a Super Bowl and ain't been back since. But hey, he's the pretty boy. Went to LSU, cool surfer hair. No one's going to say anything about Joe Burrow. We're just going to blame the roster construction, but then blame Jalen Hurts for roster construction. Neither here nor there. And then the famous guy that everyone thinks that I love to talk about, Lamar Jackson. He's on the last year of his deal. He just got a quarterback. He's got a coach fired. A Super Bowl winning coach was just fired because Lamar Jackson's poor play. I'm just saying there's a lot of other quarterbacks that we can list before we get to Jalen Hurts. Shaun already mentioned all the accolades, so I don't have to go that far. But it's easy to say Jalen Hurts did bad when we had a piss poor play caller who will never call plays in the NFL again. So it's easy to say it was Jalen Hurts' fault, but we'll never see Kevin Patullo coach again as an OC. So, I mean, Brian Johnson was once the OC, and where is he at? Does anybody know? No.
I was on your staff still.
No. Brian Johnson was fired. And then he went to the Washington Commanders, and he was fired from there. So, I mean, you can sit here and say, he's gone through all these offensive coordinators. All of them got head coaching jobs. Toddy had a bold statement that was incorrect because last I heard, Shane Steichen is still an NFL head coach. But I guess
I was talking about
the
Gannon
defensive coordinator. I
Yeah.
know, but that's not the dude who coached Jalen. I'm dead. You said something. I'm gonna give you the right answer. And then Toddy said something that really grinded my gears. The Eagles always have a top 5 roster. Do the Ravens not always have a top 5 roster? But hey, I guess it's just Jalen Hurts. I mean, we're just gonna sit here and say it's just Jalen Hurts. I mean, Lamar Jackson has it every year. Every year it's Lamar Jackson to prove a year. Doesn't prove it. Oh, it's okay. He is the only 2-time winning MVP to not appear in a Super Bowl. Josh Allen, no Lamar, no Joe, no Patrick, no Super Bowl. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have a lot more to prove. And I'm going to end it saying this, being an anonymous source doesn't get anywhere with me. We've heard guys come out and say what they think about Jalen Hurts. Jeffrey Lurie was saying, Jalen Hurts is the guy. He does this, he does that, A, B, C, and D. So you can take an anonymous source or you can hear it from the source, which is the dude who signs his checks. Jalen Hurts since 2011, 2021, when he became the starting quarterback, 62 wins as a starter, 3rd in the NFL, 185 total touchdowns, 3rd in the NFL, 18,811 yards, 8th in the NFL. So the facts and the opinions don't match. So leave it with that. So I'm going to say this is cap. Jalen Hurts is definitely not the quarterback under the most pressure. So now that we got that on, we have 2 more basketball facts and caps that we're just going to roll right into. So, Shaun, I'm going to swing it to you first. Fact or cap? Victor Wembanyama should be the MVP this season.
I'm going to say that this is a fact, and it's kind of up in the air right now because of the 65-game rule and the fact that he's kind of towing that line of it right now. And you have guys like a Cade Cunningham, a Luka Doncic, other guys who could have been in this discussion, but they got eliminated because of the 65-game rule. But Wemby, he has just been on another level this year. He is truly a two-way player. he is the best defensive player in the NBA. That's not a question. He's led the Spurs to a 60-win season. And the fact that he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, some people feel like, oh, well, okay, if they're a dominant defender, then they shouldn't be looked at for MVP. MVP has become an offensive award. But you look at a guy like Nikola Jokic, whose stats are better than his 23-24 MVP season, and he's not really even in the discussion for MVP right now. And so, to me, looking at the Spurs' improvement year over year, the fact that Wemby has done this, yeah, he has De'Aaron Fox, he has a lot of other great pieces around him, but the fact that he's done this with a second-year head coach in Mitch Johnson, who has done a great job in his own right, taking over for Greg Popovich. But just the turnaround that the Spurs have had from last season to this season and everything that goes with it, to me, Victor Wembanyama has been the most valuable player in the league this year. Is he the best player right now? That could be debated. But to me, he has been the most valuable, and that's why I believe this is a fact.
All right, Toddy, let's swing it to you next. Victor Wembanyama should win MVP.
It always goes back to what you determine MVP means, which is valuable, kind of going back to what Shaun was saying. When Shea got hurt for those 2 weeks, Thunder were still winning games. They still had double-digit spreads. They didn't have Jalen Williams. He wasn't out there. They just had Chet Holmgren, Cason Wallace, and a lot of those guys rolling out. And they were still winning games by double digits. Victor Wembanyama, on the other hand, when he's present, obviously having a full season with guys like De'Aaron Fox, you drafted Dylan Harper, the conglomerate of the team together. But when you have Victor Wembanyama as your anchor, arguably probably the best defensive player in the league currently right now, and one of the most gifted players in basketball, I think it should be Victor Wembanyama. However, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is minus 4,000 to win the MVP. So Shai is going to win it. But that's not the question. I think the question is, should Victor Wembanyama win MVP? I think that's yes. I think when healthy, the Spurs have a chance to win the championship this year. I think we all understand how good the Spurs team can be. They have, when they played OKC that beaten them 3 times to be exact. And I think the playoffs, man, starts next week. I'm excited. We're all ready to gear back in. Obviously, the college basketball is over. We're starting to hit that season where NBA playoff basketball is, and things kind of start to wind down. But to answer the question, factor capital, Victor Wembanyama should win MVP. I think he should. Want to throw my hat in the ring about Jaylen Brown? I gotta
put your hat back on.
Wouldn't do myself justice.
Put your hat back on.
Mention Jaylen Brown on what he's been able to do this year and carry this team and hold down the fort while my boy JT gets back right. And boy, has he done it. So I want to give a shout out to Jaylen Brown. I'm going to be the guy, that one vote is probably going to be me that votes for Jaylen Brown. 30 people vote for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who was the one person that voted for Jaylen Brown? It was me, guys. All right. So want to get my hats out there. But yes, I think Victor Wembanyama should win the MVP.
One thing that I wanted to add to follow up on what Toddy was saying, just because some people might have just heard what Toddy said and they're like, oh, he's a biased Boston Celtics fan. I want to back that up just by saying that if JT didn't come back as soon as he did, then Jalen would still be doing exactly what he did for 60 games of this season, which is leading a Celtics team who some people questioned if they would even finish in the top 6 of the East without Jason Tatum, to arguably a top 2, top 3 team in the East. And so if Jason Tatum was not a medical miracle and worked his way back, it took a lot of work from Jason Tatum, but if he didn't get back in the timetable that he did, Jaylen Brown would still be carrying the Celtics team. And if that were the case, to me, Jaylen Brown would be the MVP. So I just wanted to back Toddy up on that, because some people may take his opinion there with a grain of salt that he's a Celtics fan. But from my unbiased perspective, if Jason Tatum didn't come back as fast as he did, Jaylen Brown would be this season's MVP.
Yeah, no. It was Q sentiment. Obviously, they were second seed in the West. It's not like they were the eighth seed. So let's call a spade a spade. So factor cap, Victor Wembanyama should be MVP. Toddy brought up the stats of Shea with the Spurs, or the Thunder did not have Shea. They went 8-4 this season. Toddy, you want to know what the record was with the Spurs without Wemby? 12-4. So, I mean, I get it. You want to say the Thunder are a really good team without Shea, but so are the Spurs. You can't win MVP when you're playing the bare minimum minutes. He's played 8 games of 20 minutes because that's the exact minute you need for a game to count. So he snuck himself in here. And if you have to plead your case in front of the national media on why you should win MVP, you should not win MVP. Let's call it spade a spade. Shea's the best player in the NBA, so he should win the MVP. He's on the best team. They have more wins. They're the better defensive team. And I get it, once somebody wins an MVP, everyone wants to see how fast we can get them from winning a second one. We saw with the Joker, he should have won 4 in a row, but they gave one to Joel. We saw with LeBron when they gave it away because they didn't want the same person to win over and over and over. So now we're starting to see that with Shea, and he only has 1. I get it. Like I said, Victor's the new shiny toy. He's finally played a season where he's long enough to be eligible for these awards. So it's interesting to see. But like I said, if you're there hasn't been MVP in our lifetime that's played the bare minimum games and come off the bench. It just doesn't happen. MVP, you're starting all the games. And I get it. He's been hurt, so they're on a minutes restriction. But it's funny how he's playing exactly 20 minutes. If it's a minutes restriction, aren't you kind of leveling back to be okay? But you want to tell us you're put him on a minutes restriction where you're playing him exactly enough minutes to stay in the race. So what is it? So I'm going to say Shea is my MVP, but I think Shaun has a rebuttal for me, so I would love to hear it.
I mean, I'm just wondering if you remember which franchise he plays for. Greg Popovich isn't around anymore, but he plays for the franchise that invented load management. And so, yeah, he may be on I get your point that he may be on a minutes restriction. And typically with a minutes restriction, you're supposed to ramp up from there. But he is on the franchise that invented load management. So if it's going to take 20 minutes a game to keep him in that MVP and DPOY race, then that's exactly what they're going to do, because ultimately this Spurs team is great enough to be a top 3 seed in the West. And they're not concerned about winning 70 games in the regular season. They're worried about winning 16 in the postseason, and they want Wemby to start stacking his accolades. So that's why he's going to continue playing 20 minutes a game.
Side note, I'm also very excited to see De'Aaron Fox in the playoffs, because last time he was in the playoffs, he lit it up for the Kings. I'm just saying, just because, he wasn't able to be present in those playoff moments, do all those other seasons because the Kings are going to king. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to remind a lot of people how good of a guard he is in the NBA.
Damn right.
I got a hot take for you guys about the Spurs this year.
Let's hear it.
De'Aaron Fox will not be on the team next year.
Because Harper's
I don't necessarily think that's a hot take,
TikTok
considering that
made it sound perfect. De'Aaron Fox is the perfect example of the dynasty starts after you, not with you.
Oh man, that hurts for me as a Fox fan, because he had a game in the last week where he just absolutely went off and carried the Spurs to a win, and he had that typical Fox fourth quarter performance. And I was watching the highlight on SportsCenter as it was within the first 5 to 10 minutes, and I was thinking to myself, damn, I don't recall seeing Kings highlights in the first 5 to 10 minutes with De'Aaron Fox leading a fourth quarter charge. Then I thought, fuck, I missed that guy. And then the next thought that came to my mind is, I'm so happy for him, because ultimately, just like we were talking about earlier in the episode, how Kevin's a Michael Vick fan, I'm a Sabrina Ionescu fan. I became a Fox fan when he got on the Kings rather than before he joined a franchise. But I became a huge fan of De'Aaron Fox during his time in Sacramento, and I will be a fan of De'Aaron Fox for the rest of his career. And so I'm happy for him as a player, but it still hurts me to see him having so much success outside of Sacramento, because it should have happened here, as we had that brief moment that Toddy alluded to. But yeah, I'm so happy for him. I hope the Spurs win a championship this year, just so the dynasty doesn't start after him, so he can at least get a ring. But Kevin, that's not that hot of a take in my opinion, just because of the guys who they have on the roster behind him that play the same position of a Stephon Castle and a Dylan Harper. And so, man, I just hope Fox can get himself one ring.
To hell with De'Aaron Fox. He's the reason we're in fucking purgatory. Because he said, I'm not going if you're getting rid of Stephon Castle. And what do? Bend the knee. It's okay. You know who we want? We want Zach LaVine. Dylan Harper should be a fucking Sacramento King. To hell with De'Aaron Fox. Anyways, that's for other 2 cents.
Yeah, we could go back and forth, Kevin, but I'll just choose to step back from this debate and keep it moving.
All right, Shaun, we'll swing it to you next. Fact or cap? Cooper Flag has solidified himself as the Rookie of the Year.
This is the fact. Cooper Flag had 91 points over the last 2 games. Dropped 51, then he dropped a 40 piece. You look at that 51-point game from April 3rd, 51 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. To get those 51 points, he shot 19 of 30 from the field, and he made 6 of 9 3-pointers. That is efficiency right there. Like, for realistic stat lines that aren't like Rudy Gobert standing next to the basket for 20 shots, like that is about as efficient as it gets. He's nearly shooting 66% from the field. He is shooting 66% from behind the arc. And he did it to get those 51 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. I mean, we all expected Cooper Flag to get the Rookie of the Year, but these last couple performances have really just locked it in. And so kudos to him. But while we're on this topic, and because I said fact, I want to give a shout out to Kevin's other Dookie, Colin Knippel, who I did not expect him to come into the league and have the impact that he did. Maybe it's because I'm scarred from guys like Nick Stauskas and Jimmer Fredette, but this white boy who can shoot coming into the league, I didn't expect much from him, and he has absolutely torn it up this season. So he may be the runner-up or in the top 3, but shout out to Colin Knippel because he has had a hell of a year, and the Hornets are going to go back to the playoffs.
So I'm going to give it to myself first to make the order tidy. So fact or cap, Cooper Flag has solidified himself as the Rookie of the Year. I think these last 2 games, Shaun mentioned it, 52 and 45, really just put the cherry on the top. I think he's solidified himself all year. And a lot of people were going to say, well, he's just been playing really well now just to get that award. He is one of 4 players all time, rookies, to average 20+ points, 6+ rebounds, and 4+ assists. Cooper Flag, Luka Doncic, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. He has put himself in elite categories. He's put himself with elite company. Cooper Flag is a generational talent. And I get it. I know there's a guy on the bottom of the screen wearing a red shirt saying, well, Cooper ran away from the smoke. He reclassified. If he was in there with AJ and Darren, what would he be? When we had a debate all season, I said he'd still go number 1. He's a generational talent. He's a forward. And to start a franchise, as the Boston Celtics have done, they've shown that if you have a dominant 2-way wing player, is the way to start a franchise with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We saw the Knicks try to do it. We've seen the Magic try to do it. The Celtics kind of put out a blueprint to, if you want to start something, it starts from the wing. You can always find a point guard. You can always find a big. But the wing defenders that can guard 1 through 5 are far in between. So I think this is a fact. Colin Knippel, I love you. You're doing great. And I wouldn't even be mad if he did Coase. They both deserve it. The only argument there is Colin Knippel gets to be a 3rd option where Cooper Flag has to be the 1 option. Cooper Flag can score 52 points and they still lose by 10 points. They'll show how bad his team is. So, Toddy, fact or cap, Cooper Flag has solidified himself as Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I don't really have any arguments for this. I think this is a fact. Cooper Flag has been playing out of his mind. I think I saw it was a stat where it was just Wilt and Cooper Flag. And I was just like, that is just insane. Kevin did mention Cooper Flag is supposed to be a freshman in college. Just want to let everybody know he reclassified and came a year early to Duke and was number one pick. I think if he would have stayed in his regular class and he was at Duke this year, he would be the number one pick this year. So I really don't have any other arguments. Conklin-Nipple's been hooping all year. I think he's probably going to be the runner-up. I think what he's been able to do with Charlotte, I think it took Charlotte a little bit longer for them to realize, oh, Conklin-Nipple's actually pretty good at basketball. Let's start playing him more. And then once he started getting in the swing of things and everybody was healthy, you see they go on these crazy win streaks, 7-game win streak, 8-game, 10-game win streak. And I think the Hornets are going to make the playoffs this year too. So they're going to be, well, they're in the mix for the play-in. So they're going to be a very fun and exciting team to watch when that comes. As far as Cooper Flag goes, I mean,
Sky's the limit.
Kid's a baller, man. I mean, the Dallas
next Larry Bird.
The Dallas Mavericks were cursed and then were blessed because of what Nico Harrison did. And they were like, you know what, Dallas, you guys don't deserve that. Here's the number one overall pick. You guys can draft Cooper Flag. And I know it's not going to make everything better all at once, but just give me a couple of years, you guys will love this kid. And I think Dallas has a young superstar on their hands. So this is definitely a fact. Cooper Flag's Rookie of the Year.
All right. Well, that does it for Fact or Cap. Now it's time to close things out here on episode 186 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Jaevon Toddy. Guys, we got one more NBA topic, and it's about the Los Angeles Losers. Well, they haven't lost much this season, but here we are as the Lakers headed to the postseason, but yet they may be without two of their three best players in the first round, as Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves have both suffered injuries as of late. And so it's unfortunate for Lakers fans. And so for those of you who may only be listening, the prompter says, how far can the Lakers go without Doncic and Reeves? So before I pass this around the panel, because we have been off for a couple of weeks, I wanted to mention something that happened just less than a week ago, because this dates back to about a year ago, actually a year and a half ago. And that's that JJ Redick has led the Lakers to 50 wins in back-to-back seasons. He's the first Lakers coach since Phil Jackson with back-to-back 50-win seasons when Phil did it back 2010, 2011.
How many rings he got?
Well, as of right now, considering that he has been through one playoff run, he has 0 rings. So JJ Redick put himself with Phil Jackson, and Redick is the 16th head coach in league history to win 50-plus games in each of his first 2 seasons. So
I think the guy might know what he's doing.
He might know what he's doing. He's not just a podcaster that LeBron shoehorned in there because he wanted his boy to be in there. And so, Toddy, thank you for mentioning the name of the great Pat Riley, because I remember very vividly on this podcast that I was telling you guys he is more likely to be Pat Riley than he is to be a failure. 2 seasons in, it's looking real good. So I just wanted to revisit that real quickly. One other stat that I think is worth mentioning, since this is related to Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic scored more points in March with 600 than Anthony Davis scored in his entire tenure with the Dallas Mavericks, which was 587. That is just absolutely mind-boggling that AD had less points in his entire Mavericks tenure than Luka had in a month. And so yet here we are. Unfortunately, single Luka was on an absolute tear after separating from his wife and baby mama. And yet the hamstring may end up being what is his downfall for this season. And Austin Reeves also recently got hurt. Both guys are going over to Spain, according to reports, to try and get right and get the treatment that they can only receive overseas and not here in the United States of America. Nevertheless, the Lakers, without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, in my opinion, are a first-round exit, plain and simple. LeBron James is great, but if all the weight and pressure is on a 41-year-old LeBron James to carry the Lakers past the Denver Nuggets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, whoever, the San Antonio Spurs that we were just talking about, I just think that that's too much to put all on the shoulders of LeBron and Bronny. And so to me, answering this question, the Lakers are a first-round exit without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. Kevin, what do you think?
First off, I just wanted to say that you said baby mama and wife in the same sentence was crazy. Crazy work. So I know for those of you listening, you're not going to be able to see what I'm saying, but I know the people that are watching the podcast, they see the background, they see LeBron, they know I'm a LeBronologist. I'm going to come out here and paint you a picture. They're going to beat the Houston Rockets in the first round without Luka and Austin Reeves. If everything stays the same and they play the Houston Rockets, who have been struggling, why can't they beat them? Why can't they beat them? It can go 6, it can go 7. LeBron James has that extra gear. He is the man of all mans that if I'm going to take my money, I'm going to say LeBron James can get it done. Because we just saw, like Ty said, he told a fan they would put me on the shelf. For what? A time like this. For you to come out here and say it's the first of 4 games. Kevin Durant has sent him home and beat him in the finals twice. If LeBron goes out swinging, I bet you swear for God he ain't losing to the Rockets. Because Sengun is great, but he has been playing rocky. Toddy's got him in Thompson. They don't really have a lot of shooting. Finney Smith hasn't been the guy they wanted him to be. And I was the guy saying that Kevin Durant wasn't going to change this team. They still have a lot of problems. If LeBron James beats the Rockets, I will no longer hear Robin conversations. I will no longer hear Michael Jordan conversations. LeBron James be the best player to ever touch a basketball at 41 years old to go out there and single-handedly beat a franchise. Hands down, it will no longer be a debate because at 41 years old, he's carried Rui, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, the guy who played in sack last year. I cannot think of his name. Number 12. His name's blanking. Jackson Hayes, Bronny James, Sam LaRavia. That's his name.
Jake LaRavia.
So if he can take those banded bums to the second round, hey, man, he's the best to ever do it. But I got to take Blue to the bathroom, so I'll be right back. But I just wanted to make sure I got that out there just in case I don't make it back in time.
Yeah, and as No Limit Jello says on YouTube, I'll take my chances against the Houston Rockets. So Jello was on to what Kevin was saying as Jello also added, KD talking shit about his own teammates on the burner. I'm taking the Lakers in 6. And so I guess, Toddy, the one team that the Lakers could feel confident in the first round against without Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic would be the Houston Rockets, who seem to be very dysfunctional right now. In your opinion, Jaevon, how far are the Lakers going without Luka Doncic or Austin Reeves?
I understand where Kevin is coming from, and he's talking about how LeBron can beat the Rockets. The Rockets have been an underwhelming team all season. I am very skeptical on putting it all on a 41-year-old, as Shaun is saying. Now, I understand. He is arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. LeBron James has carried lesser teams to the NBA Finals. Mind you, the 07 NBA team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, that he carried to a finals team that had no business in making the finals at all. I think JJ Redick has been coaching his butt off all season long. Obviously, these past 2 seasons that he's been the head coach, he's been phenomenal. LeBron James is a guy that I don't really like to count out. But in recent memory, when they went up against the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, they had Luka, who was averaging north of 30 points in that series. Go back and look at the stats. He was all world. That team was not good enough, and they got bounced in, 5 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes.
So to kind of go back and look at how good, I mean, that was with Luka. They don't even have Luka. They don't have Austin Reeves. They don't, I mean, besides LeBron, where are they going to be able to generate offense? I'm not sure. I think, realistically, if this Lakers team goes up against the Rockets, I think he's going to extend the series. I don't know if they're going to be able to win the series with just LeBron, 41-year-old LeBron currently right now. I'm not sure if that's going to be able to become a reality, because I'm just looking at it. At least the Rockets have their complete team, and they'll be able to just make something happen. I do think LeBron can extend this series to 6 or 7 games. I believe that is possible, because I don't like to count out a guy in LeBron James, but I'm looking at it from a standpoint of you're missing Austin Reeves and you're missing Luka Doncic. At least in that series last year, they had both of those guys, but they still got bounced in 5 games. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint of how are you going to be able to generate offense consistently?
Yeah, Jaevon, I had to briefly put you on the full screen just because I wanted the audience to be able to see Mako hanging out with you, and just how cute he is. But as Jello says on YouTube as well, Mako, tell your dad Lakers in 6 against the Rockets. After that, we are in trouble. So there you go. Any closing thoughts, guys, before we get on out of here?
See you guys on Monday. Go Birds, you know the usual.
Toddy?
Go Tar Heels.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but former Sacramento Kings head coach Michael Malone is now the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels men's basketball program. Oh, yeah, and he won a championship with the Denver Nuggets. But I'll always remember him in Sacramento, as he never should have been let go. Nevertheless, that's going to do it for episode number 186 of Stats Over Politics. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. Helps us a lot, and you can enjoy the podcast. Hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics, and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys have been tuned in to episode number 186 of Stats Over Politics, for my guys, Jaevon Toddy, Kevin Dent, Kaz Johnson, Alex Dent, and Gary Singh, I've been your host, Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week on another episode of Stats Over Politics. Peace.